So where does that leave you with the BBC? Do you have to stop your
BBC,
show?
I had to say, the BBC's attitude, even though I was saying, I mean, the beauty of the BBC, it allows you to have these debates within it and be ribbed to a certain extent. To be absolutely honest, the BBC's attitude has been, they're waiting for talkies to blow over. It's not going to happen. And that's what I've been told, as long as we're not charging for it, but I've had no conversations with the BBC.
Well, they can stop you charging for it, can they?
No, I think it's against, although the consideration that I'd carry on, the others are carrying on for 50 quid when we got the old cash cow over here, I don't know. But that isn't, their attitude is that it's not happening, to be absolutely honest. They've told us loads of times, don't mention it on air, which is fine. That's all right, you know, we have some fun with it. We don't actually do ads or anything for it, but some say, on the other show, you can't help it. And we're getting a lot of listeners now saying, they're confusing the two shows, which I can understand be a problem with the BBC. Because I try and keep the subjects completely different. But now there's a lot of blurring between, because I've only got one show in me, you know. And it's really, and I do it twice a day now, that's all. But there's a lot of confusion. But the BBC's attitude is, as long as, I don't look at it cynically, as long as I'm not robbing Peter to pay Paul. They've just said, we'll have a problem when you start charging for it. That's fine. But I'll have a problem with it when I start charging for it as well, because why would I want to go work again?
So you might at some point say, OK, I'm now a podcaster, I'm not...
I think that's the problem the industry faces, because radio is peculiar, you know, in terms of you can own your stuff. It's like being, you know, a singer-songwriter. In this day and age where you put your stuff online or on iTunes, why do you need CBS, EMI, or even the BBC to say, oh no, we'll put that out for you? You don't need that. And coincidentally, and by pure fluke, I seem to have anticipated the game there in terms of my show is now available to the world, and there's like 4 or 5 of us own the entire thing, and 4 of those are the presenters.
I think Dan's standing at the front of a long queue of people leaving traditional constraints of broadcasting to go and do their own thing. And I think that's, you know, the technology's there, the means of distribution is there. Because that was the main thing that radio has always done previously, was that's the means of distribution. I can't go out and buy my own transmitter unless I become a pirate ship as such, and do my own thing. But now you can do this legally, and you can build a fan base, and you can...
It does have that parallel with, you know, downloading music now, which we know is done, what that's done to the traditional record store, and, you know, that may be a bad thing, but there's no doubting. I mean, when Paul got us his word, because I was paying Wise Buddha studios in Soho, like £900 an hour to do the early ones, and because I just ran on for 2 hours talking, forgetting it was costing us all this money. And he said, all right, why don't we build one? And because the fortunate again with me, I like to work with the door open to a studio. I like a lot of extraneous noise. I like people to think, where's that coming from? You know, I don't like the sealed atmosphere. And Paul did. He took one of the rooms in his office. We found a mixing desk, an old-fashioned wooden kind of desk from a restaurant. We called it...
Steamship.
It was up this way, by the way. It was in a restaurant for some reason. That went in. It was engineered in. The mics all came around, and that's all we needed. And suddenly, you've got your own studio, crude and rude though it may be, even though it's pretty good, I like it, and it works. And all of a sudden, there's a fellow from Radio 4 the other week, people seem to think I have some, Paul may have, but some wider business plan, game plan, you know, like say a pirate ship. And he kept saying, come on, what were you thinking of? How long have you been planning it? And I told this absurd story, and I said, you know what, I just turn up, it's another microphone, but it is kind of exhilarating to think, you own this, you just do this now, and you put it online. And he went, yeah, but... And he asked about 6 or 7 questions. I said, honestly, and I'm not being cute or actually dumb here, that's how we do it. We just do our own radio show over daytime now, and not only do we leave the BBC, but we take the audience with us. And he went, yeah, but... Shit, Dan, he said, you could be the nightmare the BBC's been dreading. Which you can keep your sonnies, that does me. And I said, I didn't mean it like that. He said, but... It sounds too simple. It's got to be more to it. I said, there isn't. We turn up every day, we do this show. Fortunately, I'm one of the few people who has a following who come with us. And you put it online. I have no idea how it gets online.
Let me just ask you one more question, if I can, about sort of regulation and compliance, because the head of Ofcom is about to speak to us. So, for whichever. You don't really have any regulatory issues at all, as long as you don't get sued for libel. Is that right?
Yeah, not in the same way as we would do if we were working out of an aerial, yeah.
Right, so what happens, Danny, if one day, fictional example, you come out on the podcast and say, Ken Livingstone for Mayor of London,
yeah.
The BBC says, hang on a minute, we've got a problem with that, even though you didn't say it on our transmitter.
Then, as I say, may the record show that I've been fired several times from the Beeb. I would say, well, that's what I do on the podcast. You've got no jurisdiction over that. See, here's the thing, perhaps I should explain. I have no contract with the BBC. I never have had. It's a pure act of faith that I turn up and do the show every day. On both sides. Honestly, I have no contract. My agent's very fly. You should have a word with him.
Well,
It's the same man. And I've got no contract there. So that is when the Beeb actually thought, because when it got into iTunes and was a big noise and it was getting a lot of coverage and people saying, how comes he can do this? I want to do that. There were some questions asked that come through that usual kind of office route whereby they ask your best friend to tell you, as opposed to that's the way it works at our place anyway. How can you do this, Dan? I said, I have no contract here. They went, no, come on. I said, I don't. I have no contract here. So I can, without making it sound bad, I can do what I want. I've got no contract.
You did say on the podcast, though, that this is the noose around the neck of radio that will pull it slowly to its death.
I didn't put it in those words.
Okay.
What I meant in an ironic kind of,
Thank you.
I think when I'm...
On that note, thank you, Danny Baker, Paul Myers. Fascinating stuff. Great. Excellent. Brilliant, guys. Thank you so much.